You're listening to the Oneofus.net podcast network.
They come from the bowels of hell, guided by a master plan for complete domination of the earth.
It arouses such emotion that the management has been forced to state positively no refund.
Hey, it's the Deliberations of Doom. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to all our fans out there. Tell your other horror fans out there about Deliberations of Doom, because I think we're pretty good at what we do.
Oh, wow.
I agree.
Well,
Rob's like, well,
I hope that I get... Yeah, definitely share.
yeah. And
Sharing is caring.
we've got a real solid team here. We've got like a horror writer.
Patience.
We've got a horror writer and director.
Yay, me.
And two other horror writers and directors. That's, Patience, Phil, Rob, and Russ Summers. Yeah.
And we
I'm
watch
not sure
a lot
what
of
Chris
movies.
is bringing to the table.
Nothing. I own the site.
Chris is just like the overall entertainment expert.
All right.
I am just the
Hardest working man in showbiz.
I'm like any given ship captain. I don't really know how anything works, but I know how to point at things.
Sure are good at that, Chris.
Yeah, exactly. Engage. This is our Stephen King episode, and no, we're not talking about The Shining or Misery or any of that other stuff that everyone loves to go, wow, this is a great Stephen King adaptation. We're talking about maybe some of the ones that slipped past your radar. Some of which maybe you should be glad for having slipped past your radar. Others you should probably seek out, or maybe seek out anyway. I don't think there's anything on here that's a definitive seek out that we're talking about. We're talking about like stuff like, yeah, it's fun.
I mean, I think that's... Well, we'll get into it.
Yeah, we'll get into it. But first, as always, we talk about something else. Usually we talk about a newer release. We didn't really have anything that was standing out right now, partially because a lot of the festivals are holding on tightly that are about to happen or are just happened to things that are worth seeing, that are, they're not going right to VOD because people are like, oh, we want to get this at Fantastic Fest, or we just played Fantasia and now we're hoping to get to something else. So there's nothing, is what I'm saying. However, speaking of Fantasia, the Summers Brothers just made a trip up to Montreal to visit. Now, y'all didn't get a chance to see much stuff while you were there because you were actually up there for like 2 days submitting
about 48 hours.
your own short to the Shorts Festival there. If you guys want to hear reviews from Fantasia, Patience and I and Richard did a whole thing, Infestation, on the site where we talked about a bunch of the
So many good
genre
films.
stuff on there. But tell us a little bit about your trip presenting Couples Night to Fantasia.
We're super grateful. We got selected by Fantasia Fest, which is a premier genre fest, maybe the biggest in the world. I don't know. It's pretty close, but
It's certainly the longest.
yeah. And Phil had prepared us that it was pretty rad. He was like, yeah, it's worth going to. So we made the trek up there. We had never been to Canada. Montreal is an amazing city filled with super good-looking people who are dressed really well and all speak French and English. I tried to marry a lot of Canadians while we were there. Didn't go my
Mainly
way.
for the healthcare.
Yeah. And Fantasia was great. They really took care of us. We got there. We got there like almost like 1 a.m. By the way, you can drink until 3 a.m. in Montreal, which we learned.
Yep.
Important information from Canada.
Dangerous information.
They checked us in. I'm trying to think. We got there to the festival. We checked in around 11, I think, in the morning, or whatever. We showed that night. We were part of what was DJ X.
85 or something like that. His cataclysmic zapping party.
So what they do is, unlike other festivals, they edit together. We had a short film called Couples Night. What they do is they edit together all of the short films, but in between them, they put clips from old movies, music videos, commercials, all kinds of stuff. So it has this feeling like you're surfing through channels or something. And he had said, it's something we do every year. It's actually a really big hit. And he said, we only have about 80 seats left. And I was like, wow, that seems fairly regular. Usually the horror movie fest thing doesn't sell out. We got out of the Uber, and there was a line around the building. There was 700 people there for a Shorts Fest. Yeah, I've never had that before. And it was like a rock show. They were cheering. They were shouting. It was great. There were about 20 shorts we showed with all of them under about 9 minutes. Most of them horror-themed or sort of weird or out there. I couldn't have been more pleased to be with the short
Did you
story
guys
with.
do a Q&A or?
There was an introduction thing at the beginning, and I'm trying to think. There were some. I would say almost all of the shorts were uniformly great. A couple that stand out. There was one called the Accomplice.
The Accomplice?
That was kind of a funny take on a crime movie.
Yeah, it was a series of increasingly stressed out voicemails with one guy calling his friend saying he's going to try and rob a bank.
And then Girl Number 2, which we had also seen at the Other Worlds Fest here in Austin.
The director was there for that. We met him, and he was great.
He's great. That's a really good one.
I wanted to think. Oh, and there was this movie. It was good. The director was a dick, though.
I've had that experience at film festivals.
Yeah, that's happened more often.
This did not happen at this film festival, but
What you're saying is Phil didn't have a short there.
Phil did.
Sorry, I had to take it. It was low-hanging fruit.
No, because I make features.
True.
So much shade right now.
Got real.
The night after, actually, they were telling us that Robert Pattinson was going to be there with his new movie, Good Time. So they were gearing up for that security. They were super
getting rave reviews. I actually missed a screening because it was at 10 a.m. I was like, yeah, 10 a.m.
That's not a good time. 10 a.m. is not a good time for me.
Yeah, they're actually going to screen it again next week, thank God, so I get to finally see it.
But Fantasia is really great.
Montreal is fantastic. And this particular shorts program, which I guess they've been running for almost 13 years, I totally see why it's sold out and they had that many people. It is definitely an experience worth going to see. So the Cataclysmic Zappin' Party, if you get a chance, it really was
That's
an
the
amazing
short program to see at Fantasia, obviously.
Amazing experience.
Sounds like fun.
Do they have drinks there, though? Can you drink and watch?
Sadly not at the theater.
The theater, although
fuck that.
the other
So it's no Fantastic
The other
Fest. No
directors we
Fantastic
were next to had brought in a bottle of Bullet and were getting smashed.
I will say that at Fantastic Fest, the ability to drink in the theater doesn't always work to the advantage of the creators of the
hail
films.
Alamo.
I think we've all been at more than one.
Or South by Southwest,
Yeah, or
too.
South by
I
Southwest.
mean,
We've all been more than one screening in Austin at the Alamo
the
Draft
director
House.
Q&A.
Where the director or the actors are so fucking trashed.
Bad Batch.
The ability to drink while watching a movie giveth and taketh. So it was a terrific experience. I hope we
Get to show
get to show there again. We made friends with everybody there, so hopefully they'll like whatever we do
Keep
next. but-
making amazing shorts.
Oh, thank you.
Did you meet anybody who was like, oh my God?
We who was the guy that made? There was two shorts that were great called LA Ninja and Hologram Cop, and they were almost felt like they were done in the style of 80s canon movie trailers, and they were really funny. And the director,
I'm gonna try and find his name here.
He was a really cool guy, and he had made. We became Facebook friends with him, and he had an amazing picture of a artwork he had made of Radio Raheem from Do the Right Thing.
Yes.
Yeah. And then, as you kept scrolling up his Facebook, he's like, "Oh, Radio Raheem's on the move." And then the last picture was him and Spike Lee, because Spike Lee had bought the statue and he was installing.
And his short of L.A. Ninja had, I could not believe this, a cameo by none other than the great Lance Henriksen in it. So it was kind of amazing, and it was literally like you could tell he'd only had him for a few hours, but he delivers the big exposition of what the LA Ninja is. So that was really, and his name is Calder Greenwood. So seek out his stuff. He's a really interesting cat.
a lot of cool stuff, man.
Sounds like a great experience.
We were very fortunate.
Do you have a single moment that stands out as like the defining moment of that whole thing, other than the point where you're being applauded on stage?
Which is always great. I would say this: they had the shorts were interspersed with these very funny animated shorts about cats.
I love it already.
I know you do, Chris, by the way, is a cat guy. If y'all have been following the podcast, every time those shorts would come on unprompted, the entire audience would begin to meow.
Yeah.
So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty rad. You know, we lucked out too. We were the first. I think we were the first or second short, and there were like 20 shorts. So so it was great because we got to go. Everybody's super excited. Everybody liked it, and then we could just relax. Whereas like other people had to wait like an hour to see their short. So that was pretty great.
Right on. I hope one of these years to make it up there. Although I was there during Fantasia Fest one year, but I didn't know it was going on until I got to Montreal, and I was there with my girlfriend. I was like, "Can we?" And she was just like, "No."
And that's why y'all aren't together anymore.
Speaking of festivals and films to see at festivals, Fantastic Fest is right around the corner. They've already got a lot of films. They put out the first wave. They're still deciding on the second wave, and I guess they occasionally even have a third wave. And on Phil has a really good movie written by Jason Murphy, who you guys know from Modern Rogue and from Spill.com and from, I don't know, a lot of places. And and that movie is in contention to whether or not to put a Fantastic Fest, and what you need to do is email programming@fantasticfest.com and say, I'm really looking forward to seeing 200 Hours.
What was that email address again?
That was programming@fantasticfest.com, and email them and say, I'm hoping you guys are going to show 200 Hours. It's a movie I'm really looking forward to seeing, or something along those lines.
I just spent 200 hours emailing them.
Hopefully programming's not like me. They're like, man, fuck this movie. I get all these emails from all these people. I'm burying this shit. Not again. Because I get bitter.
I picture like Tim League sitting back in a big, comfortable chair with an eye patch and a cat on his lap, going, kill him.
Yeah.
Which he's on so many painkillers right now, he might actually be doing. So he got in a really bad accident.
That's not good.
Yeah, he broke his leg in I think he said 16 places
something like that.
Something like that.
When he opened up for the Bad Batch, he was definitely loopy and wearing pajamas.
He was wearing pajamas. Yes, he was. You know what? Mad props to him. If we could all just wear pajamas everywhere, it would be a better
That's
kind
actually
of
my work.
It's literally my goal in life.
Yeah. I almost wore pajamas here, and my fiance was like, "You're going to wear that?" I'm like, "It's just us. Fine, I'll change."
Seriously,
we
you
would
guys
be
are
okay.
So
Yes,
lucky
I
that I'm not
completely
wearing
disagree
pajamas
with
right
your
now.
fiance. As lovely as she is, I would have been happy.
She goes, "You're going to wear your comfy shorts?" I'm like, "Fine, I'll change if you're on a podcast."
I think it's a sign.
I feel like people are looking at you.
I feel like your fiance doesn't listen to the podcast.
I think it's a sign that you trust people when you show up to their house with pajamas on.
I agree.
Next episode.
Everybody's wearing pajama
party.
pants. To the next, we expect to be listened to in pajama pants, and we'll record them.
We're going to do only horror movies that feature people in pajamas.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a lot, though, probably.
No, that's going to be like our 5th year when we're going to be struggling for episode topics.
You know, what would that be?
Okay, so this time
Anybody
it's like so horror movies that features people drinking coffee.
With the protagonist has an unusually sized nose.
Well, we were fortunate to get to Fantasia Fest. I hope everybody gets to go to that, and Fantastic Fest here in Austin.
I'm
well.
Are y'all
stoked.
accepted
We're all
into there for
going.
the short program?
No.
But
Did
we're
you
all-
submit it?
I don't think we're gonna get in there.
Yeah, it's hard to get into the shorts program, which is bizarre.
What's great is I think whereas we were just one of 20, I think at Fantasia, I think Fantastic Fest is 20 total.
Did you submit one of the
barely, and they don't have a specific set of shorts like other festivals.
They use shorts to open up big
Right.
films,
So
and then
it's
they have
only-
a very, very small section where they play them.
Yeah.
So they
So-
have 20 total.
Yeah.
Although they do have the thing where you get to they encourage people to film the openers that
Right.
with the theme of the thing, and every year I'm like, I'm going to do it this year. I never do it. And this year the theme is I believe Middle Eastern films. I believe
It is.
Yeah.
and usually
Like
they're like, I'll stick to the
Turkish
theme, and I'm like, isn't everybody a little frightened to make a movie that's horror and Middle Eastern at this point for fear of people pointing the finger and making a Donald Sutherland and Invasion of the Body Snatchers face at it? I'm just saying.
I guess you're gonna find out.
It does seem fraught with peril.
It
I
does
agree
seem
with you.
fraught
In
with
this
peril.
political climate. I agree.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to dodge that bullet.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to stay totally away from that.
All right.
Tell us about the Dark Tower, because that's why we're doing
Oh
this.
my God.
Patience and I saw the Dark Tower.
we just
Okay, so
reviewed the
Stephen
Dark
King is
Tower.
our Stephen King is our theme this week.
month.
That's Patience's fault. I just like
Yeah.
a double underline.
Yes,
Fault is a strong word.
You can
Chris's
all
word,
blame
not
it
ours.
on me, I guess, if you want. Fine,
He
whatever.
is a significant figure in horror, and
Listen,
especially horror cinema.
I mean, I know
He
John
is a brand
Carpenter
name
calls
of brand
himself the
names.
master of horror, but I really think Stephen King is the true master of horror.
So you guys saw the Dark
Saw
Tower,
the Dark Tower.
the
It
long-awaited
was
epic
super
adaptation of Stephen King's
disappointing.
7-novel.
Wired published a headline saying the Dark Tower is film's biggest letdown in years.
Agreed.
Den of Geek said, "Can the Dark Tower franchise be saved?" I think that kind of speaks to, like...
I think we waited 10, 15 years for this movie to get made, and it was like...
I mean, longer even if you think about when the first one came out. You're talking close to 30 years that we've been waiting for something like this.
And I mean, we all wanted Matthew McConaughey as Randall Flagg. I mean,
he's not Randall Flagg, though, isn't he? Walter?
Sorry,
He's
Walter. The Man in Black.
Him, Leland Gaunt, Roland Flagg, they're all the same person.
I mean, I think that as far as the Dark Tower goes, I think McConaughey and Elba are good choices for those roles.
They were so underutilized. I mean, I think in our review, I think Chris
puts on highly suspect reviews.
Yeah, I put it best where it was just a bland movie. It was just so lifeless. There was no energy to it at all. There was no love,
no style,
no
sense
passion,
of
style. It was just like
so. In keeping with a lot of Stephen King adaptations,
that's very true.
That's very, very true. Let's hope that it comes out September 9th. Let's hope that
it's going to be good.
Going to be better.
Yeah,
I can tell it's going to.
Wait, real quick. How did everybody feel about Mama? Have y'all all seen that?
I liked it okay
up until the end.
Yeah. Like you'd like third act.
That's a movie that did have a lot of style that I really liked. I even thought that the way they chose to use CG in it was cool. I was like, okay, that's a really neat looking creature you developed. And then it just kind of peters out towards the end.
I'm just saying this because that's the director of it. I wanted to clarify that. And have you seen it, Phil?
The new one?
No, Mama.
Oh, Mama, yeah, it was great.
Okay, I liked it too. I liked it a lot, actually.
Okay.
I thought it had more style and viewpoint and ideas than a lot of, like, big
definitely
horror.
had a lot of style.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, just Jessica Chastain's character alone, I think, was such a, like, cool, interesting character. It showed how much promise I think that director has. Like, I was like, I really like that. And the opening, I remember the opening was really strong. It's unusual. It's kind of offbeat.
I will say, though, watching the It trailers, which everyone, the internet in its entirety is like, awesome.
Very, very
Let's
pleased.
check this out. As a longtime horror guy, I go, a lot of this just seems like jump scares to me, which isn't necessarily a problem, but I'm like, there's a lot of just flat out jump scares.
I'm actually a jump scare fan. I know jump scares get a better rap.
I love Annabelle too.
Okay,
which is acceptable.
I like Lights Out, so
I did too.
Yeah.
But I have to say that the trailer itself, I'm not super excited about myself.
It didn't grab me in the way it grabbed everybody else, but I liked Mama, so
that's the main reason I'm interested.
We actually I finally watched the trailer. It was before Annabelle 2 when we were reviewing.
You had no choice.
Yes, because I avoid trailers. And I thought it was like right on the money. Like I was like, this is exactly what I was looking for when I see it.
Well, this is going to be very interesting when it comes out.
While I love Tim Curry, I also I think the original TV miniseries is heavily flawed. It's
I mean, heavily flawed.
Heavily flawed is nice.
I'm a huge fan of the book, and I have to say, there's obviously an experience with that TV miniseries that the majority of people have. That it has been, in many ways, labeled sort of a classic of the genre, and I do not have that experience with. I totally agree with you. I even then, I just thought it was kind of a miss as far as.
And they're doing 2 movies.
Yeah, they're going to do 2 movies. The first one's the kids, and then the second one's going to be the
adults. Which is odd because when you look at both the miniseries and the movie, the experience of the part of the structure is really that the experience of the adults is deeply mirroring what was happening in the past with the kids. I mean, it's very intentionally structured to go back and forth like that. And so splitting it up seems like, well, this is going to require a massive rewrite to do this.
I think it's a good idea.
I mean, I do too, as long as they realize it does require a massive conceptual rewrite.
Yeah, because it does not stand on its own legs. You have to have the backstory of the kid. So if you just watch episode 2 and not episode 1, you're going to be lost in why one person stutters, why one person has this flaw. You're going to be lost after something.
And that's where Dark Tower went wrong, as they put 7 books into 90 minutes.
It seems like there were a lot of problems with the Dark Tower. And it's really unfortunate that we had to wait so long, go through so many directors, so much time and news and iterations of the Dark Tower, and instead they just kind of went for the most middle of the road.
And I don't
that's
understand
how you know it's going to be bad.
In this era where clearly everybody wants to have a universe. And they accept that going to a universe, you go in with a bunch of, like, a film that goes, this is just the beginning. Things are going to be answered later. They made a movie that feels like it's the only thing they're going to make. They compressed the entire storyline
the whole idea
into one thing. And you're like, Was this just the product of like a lot of executives fighting who'd never actually read the books?
That's kind of what it felt like to me. Like, we just got to hurry up and get this out there, and we've gone through so many like different directors and scripts and versions. Like, let's just hurry up and get the Dark Tower made.
And speaking of television shows, is anybody watching The Mist right now?
I like it a lot.
I love it. It's getting terrible reviews.
Really? Is it?
It's been like a massive failure, and I'm into it.
I am too. Every episode I watch almost immediately. I think it's a really fun show. I'm kind of shocked people don't like it.
Totally agree. Everyone thinks it's really super boring, which I can understand because it's dragging out this like. Unlike the Dark Tower, it's dragging out this, this
but
whole
every episode
experience.
is interesting, and someone dies horribly almost every episode.
Are interesting.
And that's why you like it, Chris?
No, but I'm just saying, like, if you're into
I like it.
horror television show, there should be. I mean, like, let's look at The Walking Dead season 2. As a good example of how not to do a horror television show.
Totally disagree. But
Disagree
go ahead.
as well.
Totally disagree.
I mean, I don't think it's terrible, but I think after the first season, which is very punch, 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 people didn't expect a whole season where it was just about character development and there's almost no zombies.
Once again, totally disagree.
Yeah, disagree. We're going to get sidetracked.
Yeah, okay,
so
fair
let's
enough.
talk about Stephen.
I mean, we could have Chris be wrong all day. But we're going to go ahead and move on to the review.
Russ, that's what I do for a living.
That's right, you
is
do.
be wrong all day.
We got like 6 to 8 movies
For Chris to
completely
disagree with
wrong.
Chris.
And just last thing before we start, one more thing. What is, not being able to count The Shining, your favorite Stephen King adaptation?
The Mist.
Oh man, I'm just not a fan of a lot of these.
No,
But
just-
not a
just-
ever.
No, I mean I'm being of ever.
Oh, wow.
Ever Stephen King.
I mean, like
you
The
can even
Shining is the only one I
go,
like.
like non-horror. You
Oh,
can go like
come on.
Stand By
Okay.
Me or Shawshank.
Really?
Okay,
Yeah.
well,
Oh,
there you
Phil
go, yeah.
contemplates.
Yeah, well,
Phil figures
Stand
it
By
out.
Me.
Existential
Stand
crisis.
By Me. Phil says Stand By Me.
I'm going to say The Shawshank Redemption, hands down.
Stand By Me is mine. So
Yeah.
there you go.
All right.
Okay, Stand By Me.
Yeah.
Ooh. Well, God, it's such a tough call. I mean, it's between The Shawshank, which is my favorite Stephen King book as well.
Yeah.
And then The Shining,
Novella.
which is amazing. I knew somebody was going to get super technical and start playing semantics the minute it came out of my mouth. How did I know it'd be that side of the couch?
So
over
you're
there?
gonna say Shawshank as well.
You know what Rob said, Shawshank?
So you pick something
There's
else.
Someone
Green,
pick
don't
The
forget
Shining.
Green Mile.
No, we said no to The Shining.
Can't pick The Shining.
We can't pick The
The
Shining.
Shining is the obvious choice, so something
bullshit.
You
else.
could say Green Mile. I mean, Green Mile.
You would- Russ
No,
wouldn't
then I'm
say
going to
it.
have to stick with The Shawshank because that is an
gotta pick another
amazing
one.
adaptation. What?
I mean, he picked Shawshank. You got to pick another one.
Oh, so now we're all
I both got your
There's
choice.
rules apparently. Chris is just making this up.
Well,
This
then
is-
mine is The Dark Tower, and I haven't even seen
Oh, Bert.
The Running Man is still available.
it. You know what? I'll take The Running Man. Thank you,
Seriously,
Phil. The
I
Running
would've
Man is
chosen
still
Running
better.
Man for this episode.
Russ Summers
if it was
with Hearts in
horror.
Atlantis for the win.
Wait,
I'm
what's your
taking The
choice?
Dead Zone.
Oh, so good it should have been mine.
Oh, now you're
I
bad.
was just waiting. I was like, don't pick The Dead Zone. Mentally, telepathically, don't pick The Dead Zone. Don't pick The Dead
Well,
Zone.
mine's The Lawnmower Man 2, a suburban nightmare.
And now I want to watch it just because you said
Also, so good should have been mine.
All right, well, let's get into our actual choices. Now, y'all are going to be probably surprised and dismayed at some of the choices that we made. A lot of these may have been
Sad.
widely seen at the time, but have been kind of forgotten about or, like, not kept up with pop culture, but have a cult following.
Yeah.
And the first one, which I still think is a little baffling, it has as strong, and it's a really strong cult following as it does, is Cujo, which was not only one of my least favorite Stephen King reads, but a movie I never even watched until we had to watch for this. And I
Wait,
was,
you just saw this?
Yeah, it was the first time I ever saw it.
Same here.
I mean,
never seen it.
Really?
Wow.
And partially because, like I said,
I'm
it was
shocked.
one of my least favorite Stephen King reads ever. I was like, I just,
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe it's just because I like fuzzy creatures like me. I was like, I don't buy it. Cujo would have gone, but you're okay. But, I mean, it's not, this is a terrible movie. It's just a workman-like movie. And of course,
Okay. Before you give your review, tell us what the movie's about.
Yeah, okay, so it's Dee Wallace, who had kind of weirdly become a kind of mom scream queen in her time, playing the mom of a kid named Tad, played by Danny Pinataro, who became the kid on that show Who's the Boss, for the record.
And who was the boss?
We still don't know. It's still a mystery. Maybe Stephen King will tell us someday. Wait, I don't think that's
I think the boss is Cujo.
The boss is Cujo. So she's married to a guy who's always out on the road, always working. She's having an affair with another guy. There's a lot of sexual dynamic stuff going on, of like gender dynamic stuff going on in the subtext of this thing. But ultimately, they're having problems. They're not like violent problems, but they're problems. So they also have car issues. As you do, which is often deeply connected to sexual dysfunction. I say that as a guy who just got his car fixed.
My maintenance light just came on.
Check oil.
And they have this redneck guy out in the presumably the boonies where they take their cars to go get fixed. Dad leaves town, mom and kid take the Pinto, which first off you're like, okay, obviously these characters aren't the best at intelligence for buying a Pinto at this point in time, but it was a widely bought car.
It was like the PT Cruiser of the 70s.
We'll get into that, but go on, finish your...
They get out there, and after we've seen for a while, they have a lovely big St. Bernard, which is one of the most kind, sweet dogs that exist. But we see this dog get bit on the nose by a bat. It's got rabies. By the time they get out there, just the mom and the kid in the car, the dog has gone full-blown murderously insane, has already killed 2 people, and most of the movie, slightly over half the movie, is them trapped in this car trying to figure out what to do as they're both suffering from dehydration, and, I mean, this is over the space of days, and the dog is like, you're not getting out of that car.
This is why I always have like water and food in my car. Like that's why I have a zombie apocalypse bag in my car.
you go.
It's for situations just as
Or
this.
a Cujo.
Just in case of
Cujo
Cujos.
bag.
Yeah,
Okay.
Cujo bag. Exactly. Absolutely. I love the fact that there's like Dee Wallace. She was in Jaws 2, correct?
I believe so.
And like the kid literally makes like a Jaws reference in the film. I thought that was like kind
Also
of a cute
in The
little
Howling.
thing. And E.T. as well.
And the Stepford Wives. And
Isn't the Stepford
Critters.
And apparently the woods that they look out from the house were the woods they shot the Howling in.
Yep.
Which I found kind of interesting.
Yeah, she was actually in a lot of horror movies.
Horror movie connection.
Popcorn as well. The Frighteners.
The First Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah.
Halloween.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
House of the Devil.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. So, like I said, kind of a mom scream queen.
Yeah.
She's never the one who's like the sexy protagonist. She's the one who's like the mom protagonist.
Yeah, she's like the,
Dee
she
Wallace.
has the mom haircut.
No, she's sexy.
I see how
Well, you
it
know
is.
what I mean.
Summers Brothers are into the mom look.
Right.
She's not the Jamie Lee Curtis. She's the
I don't
different
discriminate.
So-
you can be
She's
the mom,
the
you can not be the
Sigourney
mom.
She doesn't have the Jamie Lee Curtis type of protagonist. She's a Sigourney Weaver type of protagonist.
Yeah, there you go.
You know,
It's
she's
a
the
fair- it's a
maternal
good
instinct protagonist.
Fun fact, King actually doesn't even remember writing this book.
Right,
he
you
was
mentioned
so
that, yeah.
fucked up.
He was an
on-
alcoholic,
Yeah, and
Damn, that is awesome.
drugs. That I mean, it's like
how
I
you
wish.
do
I
it.
guess I should just snort a
Imagine
whole
getting
bunch of
drunk
cocaine.
and writing Cujo. Like you
You know what I do when I'm drunk? I eat Whataburger and pass out. Like, I don't write enough.
Are you sure? Have you checked your typewriter?
As a writer, I feel like I'm doing it completely wrong.
Yeah,
I
I
guess
I should say so.
I need to get a drug dealer, and I mean, I'm already an alcoholic functioning.
Yeah.
But I
You're
really,
in Austin. That goes without saying.
maybe I should drink more. I don't know.
That's good.
Then I can have a good
And that's
book.
true. It's not like he had a computer. I mean, he was typewriting this
Typewriter.
motherfucker.
Yeah.
I mean, like, this is like waking up the next day, like, what did I do? Oh, it's pretty good. Shit, I'll keep going.
Oh, I published this shit. And weird that there's when you actually read the book, as opposed to the movie, there were things from it in the movie that ended up being cut out, but the book was considered to be a pseudo sequel to The Dead Zone.
Strangely
and there's
enough,
a lot
yeah.
of intentional stuff in there that is directly connected to that, including like Dead Zone. Of course, the big boogeyman is the guy
Dodd.
who's the deputy, Frank Dodd, who ends up dying. But that takes place in the same town as this, and this is a couple years later. The sheriff is the same character that appears in this movie. That's the sheriff from that movie. The town is still like in the book. He's their boogeyman. They refer to him as the boogeyman. They regularly pass by the old house where it happened, and people are like, "Oh, kids are like, I dare you to go into that old house where Frank Dodd is." And the main kid is having nightmares every night of like Frank Dodd coming out of his closet and terrorizing him.
right.
It's even insinuated that Cujo, albeit still suffering from rabies, is in fact infected with the spirit of Frank Dodd himself.
Well, I mean, obviously he was really drunk
none of this
when
is
he
in
wrote
the
this
none of
book.
this is in the movie.
Yeah.
None of this is in the movie.
Or
Just Tad seeing that something could be haunting him.
and the
the
movie
closet,
seems to give a small visual legitimacy to his concerns.
Yeah.
I felt like it sort of, you know what I mean?
No,
like I feel like it doesn't completely dismiss his fears, which I liked. Anyways.
For the record, this is in Castle Rock, which I believe there's only I think 8 or 9 movies that are actually set in Castle Rock. A lot of his other movies are set in movies that are next door to Castle Rock, like Derry.
Bangor.
But the sheriff after him in the books is named Alan Pangborn, who appears in 2 movies. Michael Rooker played him in The Dark Half, and Ed Harris plays him in Needful Things.
Which we're going to talk about in a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and I forgot, Johnny, the psychic from The Dead Zone, is also in the book mentioned by names multiple times.
So connections in the book that are not in the movie.
Not in the movie, which is kind of a shame, because I think this would have made it a better movie if they had tied it into it.
Maybe.
Because this came out, I believe, just after The Dead Zone came out. if I'm
They're
not
a
mistaken.
year? Are they the same year?
1983.
Yeah, they were the same year, I believe.
So
Yeah.
John Carpenter's Dead Zone, right?
It seems like
No,
such a
it's
missed
David Cronenberg's
opportunity.
Dead Zone.
David Cronenberg.
Cujo came out right before it by 2 months. They were shot at the same
Okay.
time.
John
Nice,
Carpenter
nice.
did the masterpiece Ghosts of Mars, so I
Yeah.
just want to know if
He didn't do
John
anyways,
Carpenter
okay.
did Christine.
So you like this one or you don't like this one?
I actually like this movie a lot. It makes me sad because dogs, but
And plus, the main dog died on set while
well,
they
they
were
had
filming.
5 to
From the
13
filming?
dogs.
No, he died. He had bloat, which is not uncommon for big dogs.
Okay. Well,
They used 5 to 13 dogs, all with different sets of commands. I guess
It's a weird
during-
range, like, I mean, 5 to 13 is like an 8 discrepancy
one
there.
dog could be like, "Oh, be mad at the window," and one dog could be like, "Oh, sit here and look cute." I don't know.
That was their biggest
But
problem, is the dogs were so sweet. They had a hard time keeping them from
That's
being
true
sweet.
because
They had
Saint
to-
Bernards are awesome.
They had to tie their tails to their legs because they kept frantically wagging them.
So-
They were having
and
so
you-
much
because they were
fun.
having so much
You
fun.
can see it, like in any shot
There's
from
one
behind.
scene that
you can see. You
specifically
can actually
see
see where the hair's kind of pushed down where a rope would be,
Yeah.
and then they forgot to tie it down at least 2 or 3 times, and you see the tail.
And the
wag.
tail's just like, "Oh,
But
I'm having
it's,
such
you know,
a great time."
didn't occur to me ever. Yeah.
I
didn't
actually,
see the bottom.
this is one of the rare movies where I like the ending. I'm sorry. Well, in the book, he dies.
The movie
kid
ending is
dies.
better.
Yeah, Tad dies.
But
Yeah.
the movie ending is better.
This
He
is one
dies
after
in the book?
Yeah.
The kid
Wow,
dies,
spoiler
and the
alert.
mom has
Whoa.
rabies.
And the mom gets rabies. Everyone dies. And that's one of the
can't
rare
find a
times
hospital.
that Stephen King actually clinched the ending. You know, we're going to talk a lot about how he can't clinch an ending, but this is one of the times where I was like, yes.
For the
you know,
movie
book.
version. For
Yes.
the movie version, I think
The
it's
movie
better.
version, the studio didn't like the book ending.
I agree with the movie.
I don't think you
don't
could-
like the
Well,
book
King
ending
didn't
either.
like it either. He said that was the
didn't-
one mistake he made with
Yeah,
the book.
he's
was
always
killing
said
Tad.
the one regret he's had with writing is that he killed Tad. in
And
the book.
I just disagree with Stephen King.
And Stephen King kills a lot of his main characters.
Yes, he does.
A lot of people, like, no one's safe in a King book or movie. And,
Yeah.
I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I thought it was, kind of...
Nice.
Whoa, I didn't see that one
it was
coming.
a twist.
I like-
Wow.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I'd never seen it before, and then I'm watching it, and I go, wow, how many people have copied this setup? Like, even The Monster, not something like, 2 years ago when The Monster came out, it's the same exact fucking movie. It's Cujo.
Yeah.
It's a mother and a child in a car with a creature outside, and you've got to deal with your own life issues in the car.
I like the monster better.
Well, I like Cujo better because it was shot better and it's in the daytime. It makes something scary in the daytime, and then it's an original. And I liked it. And he also said Dee Wallace gave his best performance for any character in any movie, including Kathy Bates' misery
He
performance.
did say that.
Wow.
yeah.
He said Dee Wallace's performance.
She is terrific.
I mean,
she is.
she's
So-
amazing in this movie.
So she must have really captured what it was that he was really like, kind of, trying to capture in this book. Because he has a lot of stories. Like, I even texted you guys when I was watching it. Funny, you can watch back-to-back movies, and there's some guy yelling at a woman saying, "That ain't my baby." Like,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of themes
Yeah.
that, like, he's dealing with and,
Yeah.
and things in his life. And so, Dee Wallace must have captured the essence of what he was trying to create. and I
Not to
dig
mention
that.
the kids acting. I mean,
I think the kid
It
feels
was
like a real kid.
amazing.
He's really...
Yeah, but do kids really act? I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. Like, his mom was reading him lines, he would recite the
Whatever
lines back.
he's doing, I was in with
That
him. He
de- that
doesn't feel like a
dehydration
precocious
scene
child
was
performance.
really.
Oh, I hear you.
He was too young. He didn't know how to read. So, yeah, as Phil said, his
He's
mom had to
reciting.
read him the lines until
He's
he
killing
remembered
it.
him.
Well, he's reciting lines. I mean, I get it. I just always find it weird when, like, a
Mimic
little
it.
kid gets nominated for an Oscar when they didn't even read the damn script.
Yeah.
It's like, come on now.
But
Phil's
that-
getting technical.
Getting technical on that.
that part where he's like dehydrated and his eyes are, he's like having a seizure. I mean,
Oh, man.
It
It's
was-
harrowing.
You know what my favorite part of this movie was? we've seen a million horror movies, and a car breaks down and shit goes wrong. They're driving to a mechanic to fix their car, and they get fucked. That's my favorite part about the movie is it's not cliche in any sense of being, and it's one of the first movies to do something like that, and no one goes, "Hey, it's a great idea." Everyone just goes for the easy way out, and he didn't, and I like it.
By the way, they were talking about doing a remake up until recently, and it sounds like it's not happening, where they were saying, oh, it's Cujo, but it's going to be called Cujo stands for Canine Unit Joint Operations, and the whole world went, shut the fuck up.
What does it even mean?
I don't know.
What do you think, Summers?
This was, this is probably the second or third time I've seen this movie, and I really enjoyed it. I watching it again, and you're always, when you go back to revisit a movie, you're always concerned, am I going to feel differently this time? And I did not. I will say, I think it's pretty well directed and especially edited. It still has a little bit of that sort of early 80s TV movie sort of look to it.
Cinematography by Jan de Bont.
By Jan de Bont. I know, it's just...
He shot Die Hard and Hunt for Red October.
And directed...
Twister and Speed.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Twister.
He shot Basic Instinct.
And shot Basic Instinct, lest we forget. So, but that being said, I think it's a...
his morals are flexible.
Well,
I'm uncrossing my legs right now on those spots.
Oh, Chris,
let's take a moment for that, shall we?
God.
Okay.
Oh, I have panties on.
The pajama episode's going to be
a quick
so
side
great.
note. Do you know why she had... Because they said the light was reflecting off her white panties, and she had to take them off.
Really?
That was the excuse that he gave her to lose her panties.
He's a genius.
No, moving on. Back to Cujo.
Wow.
Sorry.
Solid advice for just life.
Sorry, I don't know how to follow
Write
that.
down in your director's notes.
But I thought this movie was smarter and more mature than certainly a lot of Stephen King adaptations,
Agreed.
but a lot of movies of its era. The fact that it was about adultery and it didn't shy away from that. It was a very adult movie, which I think I enjoyed a lot about it. It has that feeling like I was going to say, sort of the movies of my youth, like Jaws or even like Superman or something, where you're waiting for the good stuff, and they make you wait with this movie. I mean, it's a really long time before the dog.
do.
I mean, that's why you're there. You're there to see the dog attack them in the car, and
It's about 45 minutes or more.
It takes a long time. And that being said, it is not boring. It's really interesting. Just like Jaws, you really get into the characters and what's going on with them and how that impacts them once the horror part of it starts. They spend a lot of time with the mechanic family.
Yeah.
And that definitely feels like a holdover from the book. I'm not sure that it's the... I see why they put it in the movie, but it does not feel particularly organic, and it doesn't seem to really pay off in a real way.
That's my biggest problem with this movie. It feels like there's too many vestigial parts to it from the novel that don't pay off to anything.
But to me, I look at it as it's the kid's dog.
Vestigial. Sorry.
Like the kid is the mechanic's kid. I don't know his name, but I think that's why it worked for me just fine, because he has a vested interest in the actual dog. The dog's safety is I saw him in the fog and something wasn't right with him. Maybe Dad can...
But they spent all that time with the dynamics between the mechanic father and the mother, and obviously they were having problems, and it really didn't pay off in any real way other than getting them
And I feel like
getting
that's
whacked
the
by the
true
dog.
story, is the whole adultery thing. That's really the true... I mean, Stephen King is so subtle like that. He'll take these really personal things and then put a horror over them, like a horror story over them.
And that was something that I wanted to say about the movie, which is I think that's one of the reasons that I really like this movie, is I think it's a really good example of what we all love about Stephen King when we first read his novels as adolescents or kids, is that he mixes really great character stuff with the suspense and the horror, and when you really get that intersection going, that's what Stephen King is really great at, and this movie I think does a really good job preserving that.
That's actually going to be my final thoughts, is talking about the characters. His characters are
This
so...
isn't highly suspect reviews. Right?
Damn it!
I would like to say...
thoughts if I want to.
I did want to say, though, I did have one critique. critique, which is the movie ends with a truly terrible classic 80s freeze frame.
Freeze frame.
Oh, God.
And also a really oboe-heavy ending theme that doesn't work. The music in here was kind of
Scooby-Doo.
distracting.
Was it?
I was like very Scooby-Doo.
Was it scored by the same guy who did Rambo? Because every time you saw Cujo, it was like dun 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 dun. It had like this very like Rambo-esque style like score.
That is, I did not make that connection.
It was
but
Charles Bernstein who did A Nightmare on Elm Street.
I have no idea what else he did, but it sounded like Cujo was going to war about to kill some Viet Cong. Not to like.
He did White Lightning and The Entity.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
In my notes,
And
I
The Man from Orgy.
Whoa.
as many men are.
Holy cow.
So, I'm a big fan of this movie. This is probably one of the highlights of the movies that we watched for this. We'd seen it before, but I hadn't really. I don't think I saw this as a kid or anything. I think we watched it, kind of caught it late night. And I think Russ and I were really interested in movies that were focused on sort of one location and everything, and we didn't really realize that's not the whole movie. That's only about half the movie or less. But Louis Teague directed it. I don't think anybody mentioned him really, but
who also directed Cat's Eye.
he directed
And
another
Jewel of the
Stephen
Nile.
King adaptation, which
And
was
he did Alligator.
and he did Alligator, which I think is probably why he got this
Before
movie.
this, yeah.
By the way, Cujo has an appearance in Cat's Eye.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Wow.
In one of the interstitial bits, he's chasing the cat. It's Cujo.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Teague is probably not a director that anybody would say, oh my god, this is the guy. But I actually think he's a really smart, solid genre director, and this movie is really solid. It's sharp. It doesn't. I don't feel like it really drags in a lot of places. I guess Russ is right. Some of the subplots are less interesting, but as far as when you talk about a B movie, like an 80s horror movie or whatever, this movie is at the upper echelon of what that is. It's directed by someone who has intelligence, who has ideas, who knows where to put the camera, who knows how to build suspense. And I think you look at I didn't really remember how he used Cujo at the end, but Cujo's really interesting. He's not just this rabid, crazy dog barking at the window the whole time. He's quiet. He watches them. There's these great long shots of him outside the car, and he's somewhat inscrutable. There's a lot of close-ups of the dog, and in other movies I'd be what the hell? And instead, you really kind of see some shit going on there, and you're what is going on? Because he's not the monster you're kind of waiting for or whatever. And
It's the monster that you need.
right, he's great, and I think also the idea thematically, I think this to me felt the closest of all the movies that we watched to reading a Stephen King novel. I think probably because of the 45-minute build-up, and it works in the characters, and then it gets to the end, and then it's sort of this horror suspense thing. But it actually felt more like a Stephen King novel because we really got to spend time with these characters. And the affair was really interesting to me. It was handled in a really interesting way, especially where the husband figures out what's going on. I think is a great moment. And
I was going to say, I thought the exact same thing. He comes into every moment at the very possible ending of it. So where it's when she's saying goodbye to the guy, and he's like, "Oh, it's over. Yeah, I can't. I'm happily married. I got a great kid." And it doesn't say why it happened or how long it went on for.
Right.
All you know is something happened and it's over. Then the husband comes home and he goes, "Yes or no?"
Yeah.
And she goes, "Yes." And no, you don't have to get into the whole why'd you
Right.
that's bad writing.
It's smart, yeah.
He did good. He did a great job with
I think it's
minimalizing
always
it.
smart. Yeah, and it's visual. The husband drives by and he thinks he sees the wife talking to the other guy, and then he pulls back around and they're gone.
Yeah.
And did he see it? Does he know? That's really strong visual storytelling.
Yeah.
It's smart. And the same with the attack with the dog, and he has one amazing
The 360
shot inside
That's
the
great.
car. It's
Yeah.
really. It was unexpected.
And where it comes is
Which,
really
if you
great,
watch
too.
real carefully, the film quality goes way down because they couldn't figure out how to do it with the camera they were shooting everything else with, so they had to go down to 16 millimeter
Right.
for that
Just didn't have
shot.
the
So the film
technology.
quality, the grain,
Interesting.
Again, didn't care because
Yeah.
it's such. And what it cuts to is really neat too.
I wouldn't think it was harmful.
Yeah, no, but it's
Interesting.
fascinating.
Sure,
I just think the movie continually surprised me, and it's stronger and smarter than a lot of Stephen King adaptations.
Wait. Did we all just agree?
No,
Yeah.
we didn't because I still think this movie is kind of boring.
Okay,
For most.
but we don't
so-
we don't like your opinion
And I
anyway.
would say,
so.
the first 5 minutes of the movie, filming a dog chase a rabbit going into a hole and being attacked by a bat. as a director, you read that and you're like, I don't want to make this movie. This is going to take a month to shoot this fucking scene. So, I mean, I give props to Louis Teague for, like, dealing with animals and doing it in a way, I mean...
Which is always difficult.
It's very difficult, and it sucks that one of the dogs died, which you never want that to happen.
I mean, at least St. Bernards are very smart dogs. They're very obedient and friendly dogs, but that's also a problem when you're dealing with a movie where it's not supposed to be a friendly dog. One of the big issues they had was all the shit around its muzzle is a combination of egg cream and sugar, and the dog kept eating it off its own.
I was going to say, I totally talk about your spirit animal.
Same, right here.
Same. So
basically meringue.
Yeah,
I mean, come
basically
on.
meringue.
So I did my biggest problem was the same with Russ. I didn't really care as much about the mechanic family. That felt very Stephen King. But I do think there's a connection drawn, with unhappy families and sort of the visiting of evil on the families. I think like that was really interesting. But
that in a way is very karmic.
Yeah, connected. Like the choices that they have made have put them in this position, and they're punished for it by the sort of visiting evil force, which that's a very Stephen King structure, which I really liked. And then the other thing I would say is the only thing that sort of drove me nuts where I was like, Russ, like we were sort of talking while watching the movie, which I would try not to do, but I was like, they live in this stunning palatial New England home.
Which, by the way, same town that Dead and Buried was filmed in.
Okay, right on. So, a gorgeous town. So, yeah, horror connection. The stunning palatial home in New England, which I can tell you is not cheap.
It's like a 12-bedroom home.
Yeah, and then he's driving this beautiful
Jaguar.
classic Jaguar, and then she just has this broke down Pinot, And that literally makes no sense. Like, it is probably the least believable thing in the movie. And then what I love is she drives it to this mechanic's place, which is the setup for the end of the movie. What is her plan? Like, she's there with the kid and, like, her heels.
How is she going to get...
I'm like, Uber. You're just going to sit around and wait for this guy, this weird mechanic and his weird family while they fix the car? That made no sense to me. Other than that...
Mechanic's wife who's got the weird jaw. You see, that kept bugging me. I was
confusing.
like, you seem like you got, like, something... you were born deformed and you got plastic surgery, but you're still like, something didn't come out.
Yeah, Chris went there quick.
Yeah, Chris, Jay Leno real quick.
Yeah, she looks like Jay Leno.
I know.
Anyways, I think that was probably. I mean, I would Cujo's a recommend for me.
Absolutely, overall, it's a great film.
If you're looking for like an '80s popcorn horror movie, I mean, this one's pretty good. I think it's pretty fun.
I think it's great once the dog starts attacking them in the car, but before that, I was bored out of my mind.
Yeah,
that's fair.
That's fair.
All right, so let's move on to Firestarter, which I'm flat out going to say is actually my least favorite of all of them. Yeah. In fact, Stephen King says this is one of the worst movies ever made from one of his books.
Which is funny enough because it's like word for word from his book. So maybe he just hates his own writing.
The critics weren't crazy about it either at the time when it came out. I actually will say right now, for a movie that is Firestarter-ish, I think The Fury is much better by De Palma.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm not a big De Palma fan, and I think The Fury is a much better version of essentially the same story.
And I do like The Fury, but not as much.
All right, Patience, what's the story of Firestarter?
This is my very first Stephen King book I ever read, by the way. So this is super nostalgic for me.
You have a copy of this?
Of course.
I hear they're hard to get a hold of because it was limited.
Yeah, really? Okay.
Well, the first edition of this was the first time they ever released it. If I'm not mistaken, the first time he ever released one of his books in a limited edition, and then he was very irritated about it after the fact because he was like, well, now fans are bugging me, sending me letters going, I can't get Firestarter. And I think
is it more widely available now, though?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you been to Half Price Books in the last 20 years? There's like 17 copies at all.
So this is a little story about Charlie McGee, played by Drew Barrymore, and she has the ability to, she's pyrokinetic, so she can start fires with her mind, because her father Andy and her mother Vicky,
Heather Locklear,
participated in this sort of MK Ultra experiment in college where they were given some sort of hallucinogen that eventually gave them some sort of paranormal powers.
Probably the only couple ever who met and hooked up during an MK Ultra.
Right? brought to you by The Shop, who is a theme throughout a lot of Stephen King's movies. They're kind of like CIA.
Yeah.
They
were in The Lawnmower Man.
Supernatural.
They were in the Tommyknockers. They were mentioned
government
the
agency that's
Langoliers.
fucking with shit.
Yeah.
They were responsible for The Mist. In The Stand,
Dude,
they
these
were.
guys suck.
In The Stand, they were
They
supposed
suck
to
at
be
their
good.
job.
Really
Right.
terrible at their jobs. Yeah.
And they're being ran by Martin Sheen, I believe,
Yeah.
is the guy that's running the shop at the time. So anyway, they're on the run because the shop wants Charlie. Basically, they want to test her. They want to do experiments on her. They do eventually capture Andy and Charlie. Andy has the push, which means that he can get people to bend to his will, I guess you would say.
But only if he grabs his face.
I know,
while he
but
does it.
only if he does
If he
the
can't
temple
touch his
thing.
head, he can't do it.
Yeah, apparently.
really shitty power.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's why he wasn't allowed on
it's
the X-Men.
super melodramatic.
It interferes with the headgear.
And so they get captured by the shop. They do experiments on Charlie after much convincing by her. I can't remember his name, obviously. It's
Rainbird?
Rainbird. Thank you.
Played by George C. Scott.
Yes.
Oscar
Well, I was
winner
like,
George
holy
C.
shit.
Scott.
Oscar
George C. Scott is in
winner,
this
George C.
movie.
Scott. And I don't want to give it away in case anybody's
It's-
ever
it's,
actually
you know,
seen the movie.
It's 30 years old.
Anyway, she burns the place to the fucking ground.
Because it is called fucking Firestarter.
Firestarter.
Fires are started in Firestarter.
She's not just a fire starter, she's a fire finisher.
That's true. That's
She's
very
going to
true.
end that shit.
This was like my very first introduction to the horror genre, period, end of story. This is the reason why I love horror today, is I read this book when I was 9 years old. I didn't understand half of it. I remember asking my sister, what does decapitated mean?
I'm calling social services on parents right now.
I was with my
patients taken away.
sister. And this is super nostalgic. That's why I absolutely had to have this movie on the list. And I'm sorry you guys hated it, but I still stand by it.
I didn't hate it. It was just really boring because it was way too long. And the guy, what's the director's name?
Mark Lester,
Yeah,
who
that
makes
guy.
shitty fucking movies.
Oh,
Make
God.
Commando.
Commando's all right.
It's a shitty movie that, by God, is still super fun to watch, but there's no denying it's
So,
a shitty movie.
This one?
No, Commando.
I feel
Oh,
like
Commando, yeah, it's
Mark Lester was really trying to impress Stephen King and say, you know what, I'm going to do such a direct adaptation that, I don't get why people talk shit about, what Kubrick did with The Shining, why King had an issue with it, why other, King fanatics. It's it's a movie. Movies and books are two different, forms of media.
Yeah.
You have to adapt it. And this guy tried to, suck off King and make an exact, literal, version of his book, and it doesn't fucking work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. The best part about this movie is George C. Scott. I'm watching the movie, I go, that's Patton right there. Holy shit. He's
terrific.
killing it. In every scene, that man is fucking genius. And
He's the best thing about this.
100%. And then I did more research on him because I was like, I want to know more about this guy. This guy, straight up told the Academy to go fuck themselves twice, 3 times. I mean, he won the Oscar for Patton, and the producer had to go up and read pretty much a letter saying that George C. Scott doesn't believe he's in competition with other actors. He's creating art, and that's why he's doing it. So, and they returned the Oscar the next day. He's buried in an unmarked grave next to Walter Matthau. The guy never did anything for attention. He was just a talented man, and without him in this movie, I would have hated it. With him in the movie, I enjoyed it because he was so interesting that it made it worth my while, I guess.
I wanted to watch a movie about him.
Rainbird, yeah.
Not about anybody else in the film. I was like, you're the most interesting, you're the only interesting thing in this film.
Yeah, Rainbird was, when he said, I want to, chop her in the nose and make brain fragments go in, or, nose fragments go into her brain to kill her. And I want to stare in her eyes so that in the afterlife I may have that power with me. I'm like, this dude's fucked up.
Yeah.
And I dig it.
You should read the book.
He's a classic.
Even more fucked up.
He's a
than the book.
classic King antagonist, and no one else, anyone else is just a banal officiant at the shop. They're we don't really even Martin Sheen. You're like, okay, well, he just works for the business.
It was Martin
he's not
Sheen
evil.
being a political character.
And you're also watching it going are they idiots for hiring this guy? It doesn't work that this company would be yeah, let's hire the serial killer.
Yeah.
He's a mercenary.
Yeah, I don't know that I totally agree with that because they have a lot of weird, dirty work that they have to do. You're going to have to get somebody who wants to
But
get their hands
he's so
dirty.
clearly insane, even in their
But
conversation.
Sheen is very aware of that, and he even calls him out on that, and he tries to keep him in check.
No.
So I'm not. Yeah,
But the worst part of the whole thing, Carpenter could have directed this.
John Carpenter was originally
could have directed it. He lost a job because The Thing failed, and The Thing's one of the greatest horror movies of all fucking time.
They cut the budget in half, and he said, "Well, then I'm not doing it."
Well, and The Thing failed in the box office.
Yeah.
And they took his job away.
yes.
And Richard Dreyfuss was going to be the dad. That makes me sad as
And
well.
Burt Lancaster was going to be Martin Sheen's role
Wow.
because his son is the
So-
one who wrote the screenplay.
There would have been a much better movie.
Wow.
That makes tears.
And Jennifer Connelly almost got the role for...
Charlie.
Which would
I
have been
don't
a
know.
lot better.
I thought Drew Barrymore did a great job.
I think Drew Barrymore and David Keith, because
Who was his 17th choice?
It doesn't always make you feel like you're saying it
I
wrong.
think
You
those
say
two-
David Keith, you're like, don't you mean Keith David?
David,
It's
I
like,
know.
no, it's the other guy.
It's the other one.
I think that those two lead performances are fucking terrible.
They derailed the
Yeah.
movie.
I think Barrymore is terrible. She's great in E.T., but she's fucking terrible in this movie. Like, she drove me nuts. Like, I hated her. And David
To be
Keith,
fair, she's not particularly well written.
I don't even know that it's them. I think they're asked to do a lot of really silly stuff that they're just not capable of kind of pulling off. But David Keith is terrible on this as well. I'm sure he's a lovely man, and he's been probably better in other movies. But
Note
dude,
in case I ever have to
yeah, in
work
case I have to
with
meet him,
David
I'd be like, bro, I
Keith.
said you were cool because I do. But it's just you're blind. You too, you son of a bitch.
I had
Like,
a friend.
he's
I had a friend in college
awful.
who used to walk around saying, "You're blind. You too, you son of a bitch. You're blind too." Which I hadn't even seen Firestarter
Yeah,
at
we're
that
just
point,
like,
but
what
we
are you
just used to
talking
make him do the voice or whatever.
They're
so
both terrible.
His specialty was doing obscure '80s
He
lines,
would also do James Spader in Pretty in Pink.
and then Colonel Troutman from Rambo.
Yeah, so-
All right,
We
anyway,
all have that friend.
if you're a movie fan, you definitely have that friend. I think I've never really sat down and watched this movie completely. I think I've seen the whole movie in pieces, as you do. This is very much a cable TV movie. You've watched the whole thing, but never all at once. You can feel the echoes of John Carpenter in it. There's a lot of things that I think Carpenter would have figured out how to probably pull off better. Just listening to his cast list,
Like
I
the
understand.
fireballs. Oh my god.
The fireballs look so shitty.
so terrible.
Yeah, there's some problems. First off, there's a Tangerine Dream score, so shout out to anything that has Tangerine Dream.
yeah, except for how it came about.
Yeah, which is
Right.
them just picking tracks. It's
Yeah.
not actually a score.
What fucking director would say yes to? Oh, okay. Tangerine Dream.
I would if it was
Wait, wait.
Tangerine
Tangerine
Dream.
Dream. It's like,
Actually,
we're not gonna come in to
William
score your
Friedkin would
movies.
because they did the same thing with Sorcerer. I think that's the way they
Dang.
scored the movie.
Well, so
I
that's really good.
I thought that the score was one of the best
It's
parts of
super
the movie.
nostalgic. It's great.
This score, I think, is the kind of score that you remember fondly with 80s synth scores. I think
Absolutely.
it's a really good example of that.
It's no Vangelis, goddammit.
Wow, I love them both. Do I have to pick?
I think that this movie, there is the bones of a super awesome movie to this movie. Like, this is everything I want
So
from a
you're
movie
saying
like
there should be a remake?
this is actually a film that I would love. Yeah, Cronenberg, Carpenter, but this is a movie I would love for there to be.
You know what? Here's what I'm going to disagree with you, because I think that this is the kind of movie you think you want to remake too. And then, just like Carrie, somebody remakes it, puts a bunch of CGI in there. Imagine all this fire, which is practical in this movie, is now CGI.
I would have
and
been
it's already worse.
shitless to have to direct this movie with all the fire and all the explosions.
I mean, I think the
people-
fire and explosions are actually really awesome in this movie.
No, they are. But
And-
do you imagine how many people?
Oh, no, it would've been
Good
terrifying.
God.
But that's
Lester
why I'm
said
saying.
this
That's
is-
why I'm saying. I think a remake of this movie with a bigger CGI budget and a more.
So what if we had a
modern-
caveat where it's like no CGI fire, fucking fix your story and let's go?
It would be great.
I think
Maybe.
if you were to do a TV series, not specifically based on Firestarter, but sort of based around the shop chasing various people, would be awesome. As Firestarter
that's
is one of
Agents
the
of S.H.I.E.L.D.
characters.
And hopefully we'll get that.
But I
with
think-
the
I mean, I
two
just-
Don't you talk smack about
Tesla.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I mean, genetically enhanced or chemically enhanced superheroes, and then shadowy government agencies pursuing them.
Normally
this is
something I love.
But this is like my jam. You know what I mean? Like, and then, synthesizer scores and all that. And then I really, not just, you guys singled out George C. Scott, who is a stunning actor, but I'm a huge Martin Sheen fan. Moses Gunn is in this movie. He's great. Freddie Young or Freddie Jones is also in the movie. I think the supporting cast is really strong.
Art Carney,
Oscar winner.
Louise
Fletcher, but two Oscar winners who I think are somewhat wasted in the movie.
Yeah. A lot going on there.
There's three in this movie.
Unfortunately, the movie is just squishy. It's just like there's not. It's like it feels like there's something. It needs to be stronger and sharper. There's cool moments. The scene where he takes out Scott takes out Charlie and her dad on the dock, like darts them, and then the guys come out in the silver suits and they're all walking toward. It's a really cool moment. Yeah. And I just wish the rest of the movie was up to that.
I think that the movie of itself, especially for a movie of its era, is fairly coherent.
Yes.
And does have a pretty good structure. It makes sense as a movie. So I don't think... There are a lot of really terrible movies from that era, particularly Stephen King adaptations, that don't totally hang together. They're not great. But this one, I feel like... I did feel it was like a real movie. I know this movie gets a really bad rap. It's remembered as a particularly bad Stephen King adaptation, and a particularly bad early 80s movie. And I don't think it lives up to that reputation. I think it's fairly watchable. I think you have Sheen and Scott in their very 80s paycheck phase, but it's great to have them. They elevate the material just by virtue of being in it.
Yeah. I'd agree. I mean, this is definitely it's hard to talk about Stephen King currently without something like Stranger Things coming up. You can see the influence of this movie on all kinds of stuff like that.
And I will say this year's loose remake of it was so much better than this one. Logan. Which is a remake of Firestarter. When you think of it, you're like, holy shit, this is fucking Firestarter.
And that's what I'm saying about this movie. Like, I think this is one of those movies that has a particularly bad reputation, but that has seeped into pop culture, and that a lot of people have taken ideas and stolen from. And so I do think it's a fairly good Stephen King adaptation in that sense. I understand the knocks against it.
No, but I mean, just like when it starts and they're like running through the streets being pursued. Yeah. It's a great opening. Like, I'm like, what's going on? What's happening?
It's cinematic.
Yeah.
But what I don't get is this guy's got this ability to make anybody do what he wants, and the only way he can get money is to go to a payphone and to make the payphone give him the $25 inside it.
There's so much.
You could have just gone outside.
How about the scene where Moses Gunn tries to escape the fire, the fire superhero on his golf cart, and you're like, dude, you should run.
He's looking back like, I'm
going 5 miles an hour and a flaming meatball takes him out.
It's just everything with the movie like that.
Well, I agree with Russ for once. I think it stands up. I think it's a great little 80s film.
What you want from a Stephen King 80s movie,
nostalgic.
this movie delivers.
This movie has it. I think it's way better than its reputation.
Well, Silver Bullet's coming up next, right?
Yeah, but we're going to save that for the next show. Because we're at an hour. I know. I was like, 50 minutes. Hopefully we'll get through the whole thing for one. Nope. We're not even close. So we got a whole nother show. For Stephen King,
we got a lot of movies.
No prelude, just right into the Stephen King, where we will be talking about Silver Bullet, Maximum Overdrive, Needful Things, The Mangler, 1408, and The Night Flyer.
We got a lot to cover.
So tune in next week when we put that sucker out, and it's going to be fun because we're going to do another shot before we start talking about it.
Hell yeah!
You should too.
Oh, I am.
No, I mean our audience. They should.
Oh, yeah. I'll do one for all of you. I will match you a shot.
Oneofus.net has been your one-stop shop for all things geek for years. But there's a side to them many of you have never heard. The subscription side. Subscribe and listen to great podcasts like The Breakfast Pub, The Original Gentleman, and the Watch a Movie With Us series. Head on over to oneofus.net and don't forget your towel.